Hello everyone, I wanted to make a video about the latest character I've created in Talisman League. I've been playing this a lot recently, and it's a dual wield Frost Blade hybrid armour evasion ranger. Sounds a little crazy, but it actually works out alright. Currently level 94, hit that yesterday, taking a small break from leveling to do some Rigwald related stuff. The idea behind the build is I wanted to use the Rigwald weapons, which I had from doing the challenges anyway, and you might have them as well. And then I wanted to use this chest, Cherubim's Maleficence. I really like this chest with the increased leech and the crazy amounts of armor and evasion you get. And I really like the flavor this chest has with the increased leech. It's a really nice chest to have. It's just a little hard to actually build around. So working with this idea of having an axe and a sword, and they each give each other bonuses, and having additional block chance while dual wielding. So obviously you want a dual wield skill, and you want a skill that you can use with both axes and swords, so that limits you a little bit. I couldn't use Reeve, so even though Reeve would be pretty good with this, I want something that you actually alternate both weapons with, so I ended up choosing Frost Blades. Other choices could have been Static Strike, Lightning Strike, Molten Strike, even Spectral Throw could work. But I've never tried Frost Blades, and there was a pretty substantial buff to it in the latest patch where it adds additional projectiles and projectile speed as you level it up. So it seemed okay. And I tried it out, started leveling with it, and it was actually pretty good all the way through. So, yeah, it's an in-between of ranged and melee. The attack actually hits to the edge of about here, so it's not a full-on melee build. There's some range involved, with 23 total weapon range, so that is pretty good. Now, to get this build off the ground, it's not that expensive. You just need res with life and resist, and then these two weapons are good. Or you can just use Wings of Entropy to start it off, and that's fine. And you can just get a 4-link Cherubims. It's a little tricky to get resists on gear, and if you want good armor and evasion values, you're going to spend quite a bit of money on gear eventually, but you can start it off at 3 or 4 exalts if you want the Rigwald weapons, and then decent gear otherwise. So, going over the passive tree, I started as Ranger, but you can go Duelist or Marauder just fine. It's just 1 point difference, 2 points for Duelist, but these are both good, these are both good. Focusing on armor, evasion, dual wield damage, dual wield block, and obviously life. So just, this is pretty standard. I get these for flask nodes and the intelligence, some projectile speed here. And just leveled with Frostblade all the way through, grabbing point blank because the damage is calculated from the point of impact. So if a mob is here, the point blank's calculation starts from just behind the mob, so anything over here will still take more damage from projectiles. And then grabbing the leech nodes, I leveled with these 2 mana leech nodes, but eventually just having this is enough. Frenzy charge, armor evasion, dual wield nodes, 1 jewel socket, I only have 1. Some projectile damage here, just the standard stuff, armor evasion, these are really nice. No iron reflexes, I have armor and evasion, it's a hybrid build. And then in the Marauder tree, just grab damage, life, iron grip eventually. And these nodes, attack speeded axes and swords, these are essentially a dual wield cluster. If you use an axe and a sword, and it has evasion rating as well, which I really like as a flavor node for this build. It's about 197% life on this tree right now. You can grab a little more there, you can grab a dual socket here for 2 points each, so if you want a little more life you can do it, but I'm sitting at 6.2 at 94. And I grab Resolute Technique as well, because it's an RT build. So, to show you how this actually works, let's go with the cheap version first. So we don't need Herald of Ash, we don't need Added Fire, we don't need Hyperthermia, so this is just a 4-link, Frostblade, multi-strike, faster attacks, weapon elemental damage, and I'll use these actually worse rolls. Compare these. It's 304 top end, the other one is 287, this is 294 top end, the other one is 270. These are good rolls, these are shit rolls, it's just the ones I had, and you don't need Taste of Hate because it's too expensive. Should mention that I have a dual strike setup as well for some single target, as Frost Blades in its own isn't great for single target. I'm using dual strike, faster attacks, melee physical damage and bloodlust because the axe has bleed on hit. So if you're attacking something with Frost Blades, every second set of attacks you will actually bleed on hit, and then you can just dual strike a little bit. So this is just in a 4-link without Herald of Ash. Now, switch to full setup, Taste of Hate. I'm just using Blood Rage, Riposte, Vengeance for some extra damage. And classic Welling Blades Fortify faster attacks. Let's use Hypothermia, Herald of Ash. And alright. As you can see, the Frostblade single target isn't great, but the dual strike makes up for it. This is on a 6-link with the extra Herald of Ash. It's not a huge increase. In terms of clear speed, the damage is definitely higher, especially with flasks up. You can kind of see it, that whatever you are hitting with your melee attack tends to die last, and everything behind it actually dies first, because of the way Iron Grip, Double Dips, and Point Blank scaling works. Now, I want to use Chain instead of Hypothermia. Actually get a pretty big clear speed increase in lower level content. Or like Dried Lake, and I've used Chain in maps up to level tier 10. But the one thing it does is it kills your single target with Frost Blades. So we are forced to use Dual Strike to actually... You're forced to use Dual Strike for single target DPS. Okay. Now, the reason I'm using Hypothermia is having quality on this is actually quite nice, because it gives increased chill duration, and you hit so fast with multi-strike faster attacks that you're guaranteed to hit the enemy in the time that they are chilled from the first hit, so that is just fine. And then 38% more damage is probably the biggest damage boost you can get on this final link. I actually added Fire as my 6th link. I was using Hypothermia in a 5-link. And you actually have Arctic Armour as well. So you drop Chilled Ground, and you can chill enemies that way as well. Now, before I jump into a map, I wanted to go over the defenses of the character. I have Armour, I have Evasion, I have Block, and I have Taste of Hate. That's all of the layers together. Evasion is 32%, that's effectively what you get in the highest tier maps. Armor is not that high at 5.7, but with a granite it goes up to 18k, which is pretty solid. Then on top of that I have Fortify from my Whirling Blades, and then 38% block, and the physical mitigation from Taste of Hate. So there is actually a lot of layers about the defensive stuff. On top of that, you are ranged, sort of, because you have the weapon range. Whirling Blades gives insane mobility, and you drop Chilled Ground everywhere. So, it's just a random bazaar map. It doesn't have any damage reduction mods. and not too many damage mods either. This is just to show the vanilla clear speed, I guess, in a tier 10 map. This is with chain. I sort of prefer hypothermia, but I've been testing chain, so I'll roll with it. And this is a decent pack size map, and chain will actually, it will probably outdamage hypothermia against these particular bosses, just because there's a group of them.
I'm not up to that just yet.
With all of the buffs up, damage goes to, oh wait, that's with chain, yeah, 40k with chain, 60k with hypothermia. That is without the more damage against chilled enemies actually factored in, so... Oh, where's this totem? And you can just stun lock these exiles. One option that you can do to make the damage even crazier and even more survivability is you can run a Vessel of Vinctar instead of the Atziri's Promise, but then you need a shock removal. So you would have to run either shock removal on either this utility flask. There we go. Or on this granite flask, you could have shock removal as well. Well, this boss has died without really breaking a sweat. Boxes are pretty fun with chain.
My mana is gone.
As you can see. Oh, and something I forgot to mention. Just go over all of my links, I guess, because I forgot to do that. Cost and damage taken, Immortal Core, Warlord's Mark. I have a Rallying Cry here that I self-cast from time to time. It's actually really nice when leveling, because it gives you the mana regen to actually keep using your skills if you use Rallying Cry. And then weapon is Vengeance, Riposte for just extra damage. Riposte does a shit ton of damage. And then Blood Rage, Blood Magic, Wield Blades, Fortify. This is the Dual Strike setup, and my auras with Enlighten is Hatred, Arctic Armour, Herald of Ash. Level 3 Enlighten's kind of required if you want to do these, otherwise you just drop Herald of Ash and it's easy peasy. Another nice thing is you don't need to run Blood Rage to keep Frenzy Charges up, because the sword has 15% chance to gain a Frenzy Charge on kill, which is more than enough to keep you topped up with Frenzy Charges for just general clearing, if you're doing a vulnerability map or no regen. There's a lot of off-screening going on. Decide to run chain.
That would only slow me down.
But it's not a problem. The single hit is small enough that reflect really isn't an issue. Physical reflect maps are just fine. You can run them, no problem. Elemental reflect is hard to do though. If I'm doing an elemental reflect and I'd rather not, then I switch out hatred for grace, and I switch out one damage gem such as added fire for something like life leech to lower my damage, because against big packs HP will drop. I want to try one thing. Have these mobs hit me. With the trigger gems going off, you actually leech back a lot of HP. And then you have the regen on top of that. I'll activate Blood Rage so I have less regen. There's a lot of leech going on, even passively. And it gets amplified by the leech rate from the chest. So even if you're taking damage, there's a lot of mitigation coming from like just passive leech almost, from the trigger gems going off. You have life regen, 9 remaining, that's it. Now, the final thing I wanted to go over is I'm level 94 with a mostly melee build. I've died 2 times. Once was while leveling in Dried Lake at like level 62, I was undergeared on the level, then I ran into a rare and it killed me. And the other time was just when I hit 94 doing a conservatory map with onslaught on the map and boss speed and boss damage, and the laser just two-shot me because I misplayed. That happened. I've cleared double boss Palace, I've cleared double boss Village Ruin, I've cleared Elemental Reflect Palace and done the boss, so I've pushed this build to its limits, and so far I've only died once in maps. So it's pretty strong, it's pretty survivable, it's tanky, it's got good clear speed. And there's still room to improve. I can still get weapon elemental damage here, weapon elemental damage here, get a rustic sash here. It's not cheap, but there's still room to improve. You can get a Vengtars. So, yep, I like the build. I'll put up some extra map videos that show how it performs in different situations. I have some highlights of doing like double boss Crematorium, double boss Village Ruin, how that went. Not easy, but it worked and I didn't die, so there is that. Until then, peace out.